Hi, real quick one about the ego today. Had an interesting conversation yesterday where a point of view was taken on you should have a little bit of ego, and I think there's a little bit of a confusion between the ego and self-respect. In order to understand what the ego is, you must understand what your matrix is. So we are going to talk about your matrix today. Then you can make a decision on your own whether your ego is to be kept, to reduce, or to increase, because the ego serves its own purpose. This is your defense mechanism. So how much, if you are somebody with I use the term ego very loosely because there's much more depth to it. There are layers to your ego, but in a certain point, your ego works as your defense mechanism. So you will come to understand this better when you understand what your matrix is. So, before that, really quickly, for the yoga teachers, when we are talking about the ahamkara aspect of the energy creation of the universe, they will talk to you about the purusha, and then they will talk to you about the shakti, and the energy accumulation of this will create consciousness, and then something called ahamkara. Now the word ahamkara has been translated as ego, but that's not what it means. It means identity, right? So just a really quick one for that, because your understanding about the ego will change when you have the proper translation. So it's not ego. Ahamkara means identity. Back to the matrix. So if you take a matrix, you will have the two lines, axis, I think it's called. So this is divided into two, where one is before the age of 6 and the other one is after the age of 6. Now, let's talk about the before the age of 6 from all aspects. Now, in neuroscience, this is quite interesting. They talk about the subconscious and the conscious mind, and the findings suggest until the age of 6, your mind works as a recording machine, different levels, but a recording machine. So it learns to walk, it learns to speak, it just basically absorbs information. And not just the information that is pertaining to the body, but also things like what the mothers say, their preferences, their conversations. These are all absorbed from infancy until the age of 6. Psychologically, there's an interesting aspect where if a child, the dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder it is called, where a personality splits and the host is unaware, but the personalities could go up to 400 personalities. And this particular mental condition only happens if there is sexual abuse under the age of 6 years. So again, the neuroscience and the psychology aspect of what happens. So there's no foundation to a personality. It will split into many to be able to tackle with the situation if they are if they're sexually abused. So interesting, neuroscience wise and psychology wise. Now in yogic wise, they say until the age of 6. So anyway, a child only has 3 main functioning chakras, the first 3 chakras. The others are very, very dormant. And when until the age of 6, it's basically the first chakra, the survival chakra, that is in full go. And after the age of 6 is when the second chakra comes into activation, where you relate your experience, whatever you have learned, whatever you have gathered for your survival, you put it out to experience along with the world. That happens after the age of 6. So before the age of 6 is when the recording and when your who you are, what you think you are, all the information is gathered at this stage. For great information about this in modern terms, I would suggest you research or you listen to this neuroscientist called Dr. Bruce Lipton. Amazing work he has done. Check it out. So that is before the age of 6. Now after the age of 6, you have gathered all these. Now like I said, you're now testing. You're testing it with your, not with your, also with your parents, but now you start testing this with your, the outside world, with your siblings, with your friends, with your friends in the sense, you know, now you're growing up after the age of 6. So you gather, whatever you gathered, you are now trying to put to the test. So in this process of the information, your data bank and putting things into the test, some of these behaviors are accepted and praised, and some of it is shunned. Now you, after the age of 6, you're in this constant battle of tallying. So you start this process, and by the time you're 35, you have a really great cemented set of behaviors that you know the society will accept, and whether you like it or not, you play that part. Now that, when you have no idea who you are and you have been playing this, now this has twisted you. That is what you call ego, not your identity, not the information that you gathered. So this matrix, what you believe before the age of 6 and what you think is right and wrong as you were growing up, and what has cemented as your personality. This is your matrix. Now, the matrix will determine your experience, because like I always say, the external triggers are always going to be there, but all of us don't respond to those triggers the same way. Now, that response is based on your matrix. I'll give you an example. When I was in Sri Lanka, my husband is British, so when I went to Sri Lanka with him, now I'm a Buddhist. Now, in this matrix, a monk in my matrix, from what I have learned, from what I have gathered before the age of 6, after the age of 6, all that information gathered, they're pious, they're very quiet, they are the epitome of peace. And in my husband's matrix, his introduction to the monks came from movies, basically Shaolin movies. So we were seated one day watching TV, and then there was in Sri Lanka, and then there was a news article broke, and in this there were two monks fighting. Same trigger. Now I am watching this, getting angry and disappointed. And then I just looked at my husband, and then he's laughing. And then I got angry at him, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? And then he looked at me and he said, your Kung Fu monks are really bad. So I busted out laughing, and I realized the mental model, my matrix, made that experience, that external trigger, a complete heart-wrenching experience for me, while his matrix made it a really funny, like basic a comic sketch. So this is what I mean by your perception. Every time you are triggered by something, if it's unpleasant, check your matrix. You will know somewhere along the line. Some of it you might know, because you might not know, because you have picked it up before the age of 6, but then it's an interesting experience to go deeper to find out where you gathered those from. But most of it, at least 75% of it, you will realize, oh, this is a narration I've had. This is part of this character I play, so it's okay. So yeah, I hope this helps. This is about your matrix. So you